Welcome to... Can you stop barking for a minute? Welcome to Flip Flop Motors, where we ask the question, will it flip or will it flop? Now this particular unit is a 2006 Can-Am Outlander. It is the 400 high output, 4-wheel drive. And as I walk around and show you these bits and pieces, you can clearly see that it's been sitting. You got plastic faded, you got rusty rotors, you've got moss growing on the thing. And my goal is to revive it, bring it back from the grave, and obviously make some money on it. All right, let's start with a good old storyline here. The guy I got it from, he said he had it since about summertime, so maybe like 6 months, and he just had it sitting outside. Well, I guess he got it from a family member that also had it sitting out, but he didn't know how long it was sitting. Now, he did also mention that it did run before it was parked, so that is a good base to go off of. It's not totally worthless, unless it was like clanking and ticking, so that's why they parked it, but fingers crossed, let's hope not. It does not have a battery. It does seem to have compression when you pull on the cord. It does have oil in it, but it is pretty black, but it is a normal color, it's dark. And honestly, that's about all I know. Everything else, I'm just gonna have to find out for myself. You can see from the front end, it is tweaked. It's been rolled. The front rack is bent. I crawled under there, looked to see if the frame had any cracks or bends. It didn't look like it, but you can only see so much from just crawling under there. Plastics are cracked. Fix those plastics with some zip ties and stuff like that. I'm not replacing those things. That would be a bad investment on my part. Plastics are outrageously expensive. That is not in any interest of me to do so. It doesn't have a seat cover. There's no foam, there's no cover. And that is probably gonna be a big thing to source out since this is an 06 Can-Am. They weren't very popular. As we go ahead and look at the tires, he said all tires held air. There was one stud that had broken off of the rear, which I don't know. In my opinion, if there's 3 lug nuts on a wheel, that's good for me. That's my saying, I guess. 3 works for me. You can see here that this speedometer is in horrible... Shut up! I'm trying to talk! Horrible shape. Always the first step with these things, get it running and then go from there. So we'll just leave that on the back burner for now. The brakes do not work at all. There is nothing in the front brakes. The rear pedal is locked up, so the brakes will need attention. If we come around here and take a look at the gear selector, there isn't one. Well, I guess there's half of one, but the top part, where it sticks through the plastic, is broken off. That is not something I'm scared of. I don't think I'm gonna source one out. I think I'll just make my own. I like to save money and do it myself, so I will show you guys how I'm gonna do that. All right, so now that I've showed you around this pile of poop and we've assessed what we can see, now the first thing that I mentioned before, you gotta get this thing running to see where to go from there, you know? If it doesn't run, then it's not worth my time. This thing is carbureted. I have to go through the tank and the carburetor and all that good stuff. Make sure it runs, clean it out, and a battery. So we will start there. We'll clean the carburetor. I will have to go get a battery and see if this thing runs. From my experience, if it's been sitting a while, it's probably gonna need an air filter. Over time, these air filter oils will break down the foam and cause it to pretty much disintegrate. Also, air boxes are a good place for mice to make their home, and they chew up the foam for their renovation needs. There are another 2 bolts here for the mouse house, and then this thing is ready to be pulled off. Now that the carb is off, I can go ahead and peek down at those intake valves to see if the seals have been leaking. But in this case, it doesn't seem that there are any oil spots around the valve guides. I'm taking this fuel pump off to make sure it's clean as well. This carb is not as bad as I thought. It's still gonna need cleaned. Also, the jets don't appear to be clogged, which is a bonus. But the float needle does look a little rough, but it still might be okay. I'm inspecting all the rubber parts for tears, or this quad is not gonna run right. Now that everything's been looked at, it's time to clean this thing with my secret weapon.
I got me an ultra freaking sonic cleaner, bro.
After the cleaner does its job, I like to take all the parts, rinse them off with some water, then give them a good blow job to remove all the water. Okay, so this is the vacuum pump for the fuel. Not all quads have this. This is pretty much used for like a long journey from tank to carburetor. And how it works pretty much is the engine creates a pulse that goes through this inlet, and it pumps on a diaphragm, which siphons it from the tank to the carburetor. And I want to know if this thing is clean in working order. So I'm going to try something that I thought of that might work. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put this tube in a glass of water, and then this one's going to go in an empty glass. And I'm going to use my mouth to pretty much create my own pulse. So let's see if this works. I have no idea. How's that for a science experiment? I'm honestly really surprised that works, but you can see in this water there's a bunch of cruddies. I'm gonna do this a couple times just to make sure it is all good and cleaned out. Now this big old booger was hiding behind the float needle seat. Now some carbs have screens behind there, some don't, but either way, this should be removed to clean it out. The O-ring around them is almost always bad, so I'm gonna go ahead and replace this one for a new one. Checking the float height is pretty important as well to get that perfect fuel level. All you gotta do is zero out the float by gravity and take a measurement from the base of the carb to the bottom of the float. And it's always a good idea to check the condition of the fuel in the tank. A good rule of thumb, if it's got a yellow or brown tint, it is bad and needs to be removed. These are some things you need to watch out for when you get a quad that's been sitting for a long time. This goes directly into the air box. It's a crankcase breather tube. So I pulled that off thinking it was just caked in there, but I looked down in here too, and there's crud in there as well. So that hose is gonna have to come off. You guys gotta be really careful when putting together something like this. Just keep an eye out for that stuff. Yes, I know. This filter is basically trash, but I need to see if this thing has a chance of running before I put any money into it. Plus, the mice were kind enough to leave me a patch for the hole.
What's that? Is it talking? Oh, what? Oh, on our nose! On our nose! Peggy, Peggy!
So I've got to figure out which position this is supposed to be on because it turns over in either position, whether it's on or off. And it's pretty faded and I can't tell which is which. So I will have to look that up. If that doesn't work, then I will just have to go into the ignition circuit and see if it's getting spark or not. Switch to the right side. Inward is on. We are getting spark, but I don't think we're getting fuel. This is the reserve line right here, and it's dry. There's nothing coming out. I don't know what's going on, really. So it's obviously a fuel issue. I'm gonna tinker with this a little bit, and I'll get back to you guys. I'm killing the battery. All right, here's the deal. I just pulled the plug. It is not wet. It's not getting fuel to the combustion chamber. So I don't know if it's just like the fact that there's a mile-long hose going from the tank to the petcock to the vacuum pump to the carburetor or what, but it's just taking its sweet-ass time there, or there's just a clog. If I had starter fluid, I could just squirt some in there and it'll probably cycle that fuel up. I might just have to go get some. How about that, boys? It does run. The motor sounds super healthy. I don't know what was going on. I think there just wasn't enough suction to carry all that fuel to the carburetor. All I did was I just poured some straight into the carburetor, and then, well, the battery's dead from cranking it for so long. And then I pulled it and it started first pull, as you saw. So I'm happy that it doesn't smoke or anything. There's no weird noises. Besides, behind this cover, it sounds like there's a bunch of, I don't know, acorn shells or whatever just bouncing around in there. Other than that, it doesn't appear to be leaking. There's no smoke, so I'm so happy about that. Let's see if it'll start right up with the keys. Oh, this key's a little finicky as well. That's not it. Hold on. Needs a little fuel. I can't operate this, dude. There we go! Yeah! Okay, so it runs. But does it move? 4x4 switch is stuck. I'm gonna spray it with some loosey-goosey and see if it frees up. Alright, although I did get it running, there's still a ton of stuff to do. You can see that I have left the plastics off. If you guys want to do this, get in the habit of not putting everything together. Just in case something needs to be worked on, you put everything back together. You start it up for the first time. Oh, that's not right. You got to take everything back off. You know what I mean? It's going to save you some time and some frustration, because taking things off and on and off and on and off and on can really get to your noggin. So be healthy, be happy, be smart, take my advice. I think that's about going to do it for this video. I want to know what you guys think. I want to know what you liked about this video, what you didn't like about this video. Anyway, if you liked what you see, stick around. We've got plenty more to do on this. Goodbye.